Well, good afternoon. I apologize for being tardy. I have not found the right credential to get me access right out front, so maybe I'll win a couple of games and get one of those. Many of you, I think, are wondering uh, why are we having this conference at this time of the year. Um, Certainly, first and foremost, putting a staff together is not about, hiring and then, let's immediately get in front of the media. We need to spend a little time together. 7 of the 10 coaches that are, contracted were new coaches for me in terms of I hadn't spent much time with them. So we needed to spend some time together, get a chance to know each other. Certainly, philosophically, the things that we do on a day-to-day basis are going to impact our team on a day-to-day basis. So it was important that we spent a little bit of time together. And so why we spent some time, we certainly got an opportunity to get to know, what our charge is, and that is develop our players. And player development is at the core of who I am and my over 30 years of experience. You'll see that in the hires. I think if there's one prevailing theme that you'll see with our coaches, and even you'll see that in our analysts, from the defensive side of the ball, Chuck Bullitt, John Jancic in particular, both of them are former Power 5 defensive coordinators. And so, when we talk about our defense, the theme is experience, winning, and the ability to recruit, communicate, motivate, and develop our players. And that's really the prevailing theme across the board. When it comes to special teams, Brian Polian's been with me the past 5 years, but his experience spans over 2 decades, and again, experience, success, been part of 2 BCS playoff appearances, and recruiting. Had been a recruiting coordinator for me, and has put together a great track record as it relates to recruiting. So again, across the board as it relates to today, where we're going to talk about our defense, our defensive hires and special teams, again, experience, the ability, obviously, to look at winning as a core fundamental, and then recruiting. So I'll start with our defensive coordinator, Matt House. What really drew me to Matt was coordinator experience. Here's a man who has multiple coordinator roles at 3 different schools in particular, but more importantly in the SEC. And having experience in the SEC as a coordinator was certainly something that I was looking for. Matt's coached all the positions as well. And as a former defensive coach myself and a Division II head coach, I can appreciate somebody that's had to coach all those positions, because I've had to have that on my agenda as well. So he's coached the positions. He can fix the defense if it needs to get fixed, which it's never going to need to get fixed, right, Matt? We know that already. And he's won at the highest level. He's won a Super Bowl. So he's a winning football coach and a great teacher, great communicator. And so that's what really drew me to Matt. Jamar Kane, who's our defensive line coach and our run game coordinator, his versatility, his ability, to coach the defensive line, not only in the 3-down and 4-down, the multiplicity that we're looking for defensively, that was really attractive in somebody that has that ability to do multiple jobs that we're going to ask our defensive line coach to do. He's won a national championship. He's been part of winning programs. and then a proven record as a recruiter. And so again, that prevailing theme that I talked about with Jamar. Kerry Cooks has been with me as well. I know him very well, but brings great versatility as somebody that has coached corners and safeties. He's played for national championships, been part of many Big 12 championships. Obviously he's been part of the college football playoffs on a number of occasions. So again, you can see winning is part of this coaching staff. They've been part of winning programs. They know what it looks like, and obviously a huge draw for me is Kerry's an outstanding teacher, communicator, and recruiter as well. And then Robert Steeples, coaching the corners is really a unique trait position. And I needed somebody that's played the position. And Robert's played the position, played it in college, played it in the NFL. As a winner, he ran his own program and took over a program and won a state championship as a head coach. And when you get a chance to talk to him, you can tell that he's a great communicator, great teacher. And will be a great recruiter. And I've talked about Coach Polian, who will also serve as a recruiting coordinator for us as well, and our special teams coach. 20-plus years of experience, 5 years with me. He's a winner. He's been in winning programs. He's recruited top 10 classes. So, again, as I looked at putting together a staff and assembling a staff, we're in the SEC, and we're in the toughest division in the SEC. You need experienced coaches. You need coaches that know what winning is about and how difficult it is to win in this conference. And then you need to recruit. And if you check those three boxes, those are the things that I was looking for in putting a staff together today. So you'll get an opportunity to break out with them. I'll open it up to any questions that you might have. Is that what you would like? Yep.
Hey, Brian Wilson Alexander from The Advocate. You mentioned wanting multiplicity on defense. What other sort of qualities are you wanting to see on your defense in terms of scheme and what that might look like?
Yeah, I think, from a defensive standpoint, I think offensive, minded coaches would all tell you that if you line up one way, you're going to have a long day. And so, we're going to defensively be able to give you multiple looks. Obviously, try to keep the personnel as constant as possible, and make it difficult, for offenses to know what they're going to get from down to down. And that's really the game today, right? If you're constantly, moving personnel in and out of the game, multiple packages, makes it a little bit more of a game for the offense because they can change tempo on you. So, we're going to, try to have the pen last in a lot of those situations.
Michael Cobble in the back here. If you could just kind of get us caught up. You said getting to know each other was obviously important, but what is the last month and a half maybe now that you've been able to kind of sink your teeth into it, and what is the team currently doing and you meeting with the players, et cetera?
Yeah, so, first and foremost, it was, for us getting the entire staff, through HR, getting all of those, that process completed, which, obviously doesn't happen overnight. And, finishing up the hires, we had some coaches that went through the playoffs, and we had to take care of those things. And then it really was about developing some relationships with coaches and staff meetings. We've only had a couple of staff meetings. I would say the first, few weeks, it was hit the ground running and recruit with not a whole lot of dialogue other than them having the experience, certainly being attuned to what our interviews were like in terms of what my expectations were, and getting out on the road and putting together a class in a very short order. and I thought they did a terrific job. So that took up probably, you know, maybe half of the time together, and then the rest has been observing our players in strength conditioning. Jake Flint, our strength coach, has taken the lead there, and so then our coaches have gradually started to have dinners with them, get a chance to know our players a little bit better, and then we've been now starting to meet as staffs and get ready as we put together our offense, defense, and special teams playbook, nomenclature, terminology, things of that nature.
Hey, Coach, here on the right. Shay Dixon with 24/7 Sports. You mentioned with recruiting, you signed 15 high school guys between the 2 signing days and 13 transfers. What behind the scenes went into striking that balance with those numbers as you build the roster back out?
Yeah, so, I think it started with immediate needs versus, player development and knowing that we had to balance it in some fashion. Like, we're going to take the field against Florida State, and we needed to have a roster that allowed us to compete right away. And so that 13 represents filling immediate needs that either were through graduation, attrition, or injuries. So that's the 13. The 15 is through just the normal turnover through graduation and moving on to the NFL. And that really kind of dictated how we moved forward between the split between 15 and 13 relative to, the 28.
Brody Miller with The Athletic. As somebody who's hired plenty of coordinators in your career, I guess, are there certain qualities you've learned you look for in hiring a defensive coordinator, certain things that you kind of, learned you like?
Yeah, I think, first and foremost, somebody that communicates effectively, can develop his staff. This isn't about what you know. This is about, how you can empower others. And, Matt has a proven track record of being able to, bring others along with him and develop them, players, coaches alike. So I think I'm looking at, how they bring the room together, other coaches, and then players. And his work at Kentucky was outstanding. The development of the defense through the years at Kansas City, obviously were big. Got a chance to watch him firsthand at Pittsburgh, went against them there, North Carolina State, and loved the way he made adjustments and things of that nature. So I think some firsthand, but I think what I'm looking for in particular is, the ability to not only have the knowledge of the position, but, how that knowledge is developed amongst the other members of the staff as well.
Hey, Coach, over here on your right, Matthew Brunet, 24/7 Sports. When you look at the 13 transfers, obviously there's a mixture of eligibility. Some have played 1 year, some have played 4 years. Why was that important when assembling the transfer portal?
Yeah, so there were some specific charges there. We were looking for guys that had a connection to the state of Louisiana. So it wasn't an accident that a lot of these guys were from the state, wanted to come back to Louisiana, wanted to play for LSU. For whatever reason, they didn't end up playing football here in their freshman, sophomore years, but want to be here. So we were going to take guys that of high character. One of them was a captain at another school in the SEC, that were good students, that we weren't taking guys that were not above the line, so to speak, for us, and we're going to impact the culture of our team in a positive way right away. And one of those criteria was if they could be from Louisiana, that would be a big plus for us. Awesome.
Hey, Brian, Adam Hunsucker at Tiger Rag. You mentioned that there's a lot of new guys on this staff that you've never worked with before. Was that by design, or did it just kind of work out that way?
It's always a little bit of both. I've been doing it quite a long time, so I've had coaches that I've known for many years. That Mike Denbrock is back with me. He had been at Cincinnati for a number of years, so I'll circle back with coaches that I've coached with before, and then some coaches that I've never coached with before. But there's always some kind of connection in some fashion, that these coaches, that somebody knows somebody that knows somebody in this business when you're in it as long as I have. So I'm not. I think I'm at a point in my career where there is a connection in some fashion, even if it's not a direct connection. Somebody that knows that coach, even if you haven't coached with him before. Somebody that knows him very well, and you feel comfortable, making that decision.
Hey,
You
Coach,
get the last question.
I hope it's a good one for you.
I'm sure it is.
Glenn West with LSU Country. Just now that you've had a month or so to kind of get to know these players a little bit, what are your general impressions of them, and just any common traits that you've seen in a lot of the players you've been able to get to know?
Yeah, we're not ready to play. If we have to play tomorrow, we're not ready yet, but we will be ready. It's going to be a process for us. I like the fact that, like many teams that I've had in the past, at this time, this is the fifth time I've done this, is that there's a want to. They recognize and they are aware of what they've done the last 2 years, and cumulatively it's been 500, and that's not good enough. And so there is a desire to want to change that, and so there is that want to. Now, we've got a lot of things that we've got to work on to be the championship program that we want to be. But I guess like anything else, as long as we have a group of players that are committed to what we want to do here, we're pretty confident that we can get them there come opening day. Thank you.